4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning everybody. It's a very blustery cold morning out here and I've yet to get out of bed because I don't think it's going to warm up at all, and although it's only 14 degrees Celsius, which is about 54 Fahrenheit, you know, for us we consider that to be perishingly cold. There's a nasty wind blowing and you could see that the clouds are scudding over the sky, and it's very difficult to sort of raise oneself from the reclining sleeping position. And now that we have a boat to drive around in with a special bed in the back, well, it's just very comfortable to sit over here. So for the next 3 hours, I'll be conducting my safari from where I'm sitting here. Now, please do remember, you are live, which means we are live, semi, and that means that you can talk to us at any stage, and please do so during the course of the next 3 hours. Hashtag Safari Live if you'd like to talk to us. My name is James Hendry. I will be your safari guide for the day, and on camera today is Hoppy Pasfoot, aka Jean-Andre Gerding. His foot is looking much better, you'll be pleased to know. I'm not really going to lie here the whole drive, everybody. I'm just trying to be vaguely amusing, because it is Sunday after all. Sorry about that. Brian left this blanket in the car and I thought it was being put to good use. Anyway, it's not that unpleasant out here. In fact, it's not unpleasant at all. But it is quite blustery. And out tracking just around here is Herbert, so we can't really drive off at the moment. I think he's just gone, so I can see him there, he's just up the road. We're following up on the lions. Now, the male lion and the female lion, who were attempting to mate very poorly yesterday evening, came into this area. There was a herd of buffalo knocking about the place. They've walked off. So we're going to see if we can find those lions for the next little while. We might be lucky. We might find something else. On the other vehicle, Brent Leo Smith, he's knocking about the middle of this reserve and probably heading to Cheetah Plains, but he'll tell you a bit more about that just now. Let's head up the road here and see what Herbert has to tell us about the tracks. That was a very pleasant opening, everybody. I did enjoy it very much. It's actually horribly uncomfortable. I was lying on a battery and a spare tire. I think Herbert went up there. Yes, there he is. There was that pillow still in the car. Yes, Brian's pillow and Brian's blankie. So there in front of us you can see a human form. That is Herbert, and he has found clearly the tracks going up the road. And he's going to come along with us during the course of the morning, and it's just great having a proper tracker around, because of course while we are presenting and discovering little things, he is much more skilled at looking into the bush and finding the small scuff marks and tracks that lions and leopards leave, and of course then following them through the bush. And these are traditional skills that have to be maintained because they are so amazingly important for conservation. So I think the tracks are probably going straight up the road. Maya straight?
I chicken so.
Okay. Herbert says they're on Zoe's road. So they're not going up here. All right, in the meantime, we'll keep you posted. Let's go across to Brent and find out what his plans for the morning are.
Welcome to a very chilly and windy sunrise safari here on Safari Live. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Gerard on camera with me today, and we are heading east towards Cheetah Plains. There's a report of the sticks and cubs very close to the cut line between Annette's and Cheetah Plains. Fingers crossed that they're going to come over and visit us on Cheetah Plains. And also, isn't it nice to get James Hendry out of his kingdom of the tent and experience the cold that the rest of us face on a daily basis? I'm quite excited. Just a few more updates for you. Queen Karula is still to the south, somewhere near the Mawati River, which we're about to cross, but she is below our boundary. And I think here are the tracks of that big herd of buffalo. The lions maybe made an attempt on last night, and they've skedaddled all the way through. And it is very windy and very cold, so cold in fact that I have not one but two hot water bottles, and they're very lovely. I think they're my best friends at the moment. So if you want to know a little bit about what's going on, what we're doing, we're on a live African safari, suffering the cold to bring you the joys of the wilderness. And if you want to ask me any questions about the wilderness, please pop me a message by using the hashtag #SafariLive on Twitter, and I'll try and answer your question to the best of my abilities. But of course, it's not only about the big hairies and scaries, and we're always on the lookout for any interesting thing, from the tiniest little insect to the largest tree. And of course, everything in between. And I'm very confident that James and Herbert are spot on those lion tracks, and they're going to try find them. So it sounds like they came onto quarantine and gave those buffalo a big scare. Well, we are looking or hoping to find those Styx cubs, those little bundles of cuteness. Lion cubs are possibly one of the cutest things in the whole of the African bush. They might just be cuter than leopard cubs. And Anna Marie says, get to Cheetah Plains ASAP. So we're going to do a few spots as we drop through the Mulwanini River, so that we might have a bit of signal breakup, but we're going to stay with us as we race. I'll make my foot heavy, Anna Marie, to get to. I even changed gear to go faster there. I'm going to let you rush around with me while we go there, and while we're moving there, there's a chance we could find anything. But as I said, please send me your comments and questions using the hashtag #SafariLive, and hopefully I'll be able to answer them. It's always important to check the big junctions of roads for tracks of animals. Roads so much at the moment. This is a main access road, very straight, but a lot of the main game drive roads are built on big game trails, and that's why they were put there in the first place, because the animals like to use them. And as you can see, the sky, fortunately, we're getting a bit of cloud breakup, and it looks like the cold front's not going to hang with us for too long. And I'm really hoping the wind departs, because it's not so bad being cold, but being cold and windswept, you know, it's not good for my hair. It causes knots. So, just want to have a careful look around here. This section is part of Tandi's area. Now, if you're wondering who Tandi is one of the dominant female leopards we see on SafariLive, and she holds territory to the east and south of Queen Karula, who's the dominant on Juma. So she's often seen in this area. There's a waterhole to my south, and she's often coming through. I just want to check very carefully if there are any tracks. And of course, I'm just teasing Anna Marie by going slower. Very close to our southern traverse. Oh, there's a Chile impala. And it's getting very a lot of the animals are quite nervous in this weather. And the wind affects their senses. Obviously, it's a very swirly wind. affected, more the hearing's affected. I'm quite jumpy.
So we don't know exactly where the track is on at this stage, and we're just having a discussion as to where Herbert thinks they've gone. Taxon is now also on the case. We'll probably drop off Herbert here to go off on foot and see what he can find. Having a little bit of trouble with our signal at the moment. One of the batteries has flattened. Good morning, good morning. Afshen. Minjani kwala. Ipokile nangwini. Okay.
I don't know if the ending that's up.
All right. I go mangin chumule.
Okay.
Yeah. That's it. I have it.
What time did you guys get up this morning?
Oh, about 3:30.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh, and what did you see?
Oh, nothing. We've seen a couple of buffalo dungs.
How exciting. How do you do that?
Should we go back for breakfast already?
Yes. Well, people are enjoying the sight of live dung, and I mean we found some bacteria and one or two termites, which is excellent.
Some wild Africans in the
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you thought it necessary to tell Texan that all
Exactly,
knows
so
this
that
stuff.
you might too enjoy what we have been seeing. Because to keep that from you would be very, very sad.
So what creatures did you find in the dung? Did you find any little interesting creatures eating the dung?
One termite,
What do you find?
very
It wasn't
cold.
a termite, it was a red ant.
No, it was a termite.
No,
I
it was
assure
close,
you it was a
red
termite. Have a drive. So those are guests driving with Texan out of Weirtela, and Weirtela, of course, is one of the camps here at Juma. Everyone's a joker on Sunday mornings. So. Okay. Right, we're going to leave Herbert on the tracks here. He has a radio and he's armed with a small stick. And then we'll just kind of see if we don't pick anything up. La. And Tachikala. Yeah. Tachikala Galago. Okay. There goes Herbert, everybody. And he will take refuge in the tent, I suppose, if he gets cold. Oh, look. That's a martial eagle, everyone. Flying at this time of the day, not easy at all. That's the biggest eagle that we get here. Oh, wonderful. You can just see the little paleness on the underside of the belly there. Black head, black underwings, and the size, of course, absolutely massive. Probably about 2.5 meters across at the wingspan. I'm just going to check that, actually, because I'm always amazed by how much bigger the wingspan of these birds tends to be. Let me just find the errant eagle. Where is it? There it is. Doubly click. So wingspan, yeah, 2.5 meters, 2.4 meters. That's in feet. Well, 2.4 meters in feet. John Ray's about 9 feet, I think. 8 feet. 8 feet. That is massive. And it only weighs 5 kilograms, so about 10 or 11 pounds, which always amazed me. I always think something that large should be a little bit heavier. Look at it hovering. It's very unusual for a bird to be flying at this time of the day, of this size to be flying at this time of the day, simply because they do so rely on heat and thermals. But when there's a wind blowing like this, they can balance and hang in the wind. He's diving. He's diving. He's going for something. Ha! think he's taking off again. Let's just see if he pops up the other side. I think he's nailed something. Quite possibly a reptile like a monitor lizard. That's what they like to eat. He might have nailed something even smaller. You know what? I think it's worth just taking a trip around there and having a look-see. Wasn't that amazing? It's very unusual to see, like I said, this time of the day. Ha. Brilliant. Okay, we'll go around there. Before we go around there, though, I just want to do a quick turn past the camp. Not the camp, past the Gallagher Pan over there. And let's just see if they haven't gone, the lions, I mean, past there. That's certainly where they were heading yesterday before they heard the buffalo. And I just wonder if they aren't around that area. We'll just keep an eye out over here for tracks. Now we are going to go past the final control, so just be aware. So now, I mean, the big thing about coming to visit a place like this, of course, is that you are in the middle of the bush. So you don't stay out of the bush. Here we are, tracking lions. We're going past Wuyatela Camp on the left-hand side. We're going past the final control on the right-hand side. And so lions and leopards and hyenas and buffalo and elephant and all the other animals live right in close proximity with us. Wave at Kirsty, and who's in there with her today? Louise. I don't know who's in there. It was Louise. Good guess. Hello, Louise. So we just nip past here and down towards the pan. Then we'll go across the dam wall and go back around. Of course, we're in the process of getting amorous with each other, which means that their moves will probably not be quite as predictable as they would normally. Not that they are actually ever that predictable. Tracks of a male leopard here, but these are from yesterday. At some stage, so these aren't very fresh.
Okay, good.
I think we've got tracks here, guys. Herbert, do you copy, Herbert? I just need to tell Herbert. Herbert, we've got tracks of at least one female here at the Gallagher Pan, not Gallagher Pan, at Wuyatela Pan. I'm going to go and check Bubu Road. So they may have come down here and then moved away again. I don't know. We'll go around and have a look. In the boat. Now we have to negotiate this fairly tricky piece of road in the boat. Now, Arlene, you're in Texas and you're gets out by because the west of town. Brent has got signal on Cheetah Plains. I'll keep you updated once we get there.
We've arrived on Cheetah Plains, and I've got the best news, which makes me the most excited. Unfortunately, it's not any cats. So it's the fact that we are the only people on the whole of Cheetah Plains. This is our own private reserve for the morning, so hopefully it's going to be very productive, very exciting. So I know that no one else has driven on the road, so any tracks we see, we're going to be the first ones to see them. And it is quite nice to have your own little private area for the morning. Now, I am listening to the guys tracking the Styx cubs behind us. And I'm going to wait till they say they're much closer to the boundary before I shoot there. There's already 3 cars following those tracks, so it would be a silly utilization of our time and energy to go check where there's already 3 cars checking. So we're going to go to the east and see what's happening on those open areas. And I haven't seen cheetah in a long time, but I have seen something that is quite spectacular, and I definitely haven't seen cloud formations like this in a long time. So we've got the little cumulus from the cold front sitting quite low, but above it, look at the cirrus, or that could be even ultra cirrus or cirrus stratus. So if we zoom into, here we go, we're going to zoom now in between the fluffy clouds, and we're going to look behind the fluffy clouds and look at that. That is actually ice. Can you believe that? That is ice that is up in the air behind the fluffy clouds. It's absolutely incredible. And if we come out and down a little bit to the left, and a little bit more, a little bit more. Okay, stop, zoom there, and zoom beyond the fluffy clouds, and it's almost like crisscrosses if we focus in on that particular spot there. There we go. We're just going to get the focus. It is quite difficult because of all the other clouds around. And you just see that incredible icicles up in the air. Look at that. Isn't that absolutely spectacular? It's so spectacular, in fact, that I cannot resist. And normally I try make sure my photographs of animals, I don't do much landscape, I leave that to James, but I think these clouds warrant a snap of their own. Now, where's that crisscrossing again? It is absolutely stunning. The light coming through there, I mean, it might be cold and windy, but views like this just make it worthwhile. And even better news, I am going to change my plan slightly. It sounds like tracks of those lions are coming towards our boundary. I'm not going to prematurely rush to the area. I'm going to do a little loop. So I think a very good midday, or maybe late, or mid-afternoon to Joey, who's in Australia. Joey would like to know, are lion cubs easier to relax than leopard cubs? Are they more relaxed? Are they braver? And how long does it take them to get used to vehicles? Well, because they're in a social environment, once they've joined the pride, they become relaxed to the vehicles quite a lot quicker than leopard cubs. Also, because of that social environment, makes them easier to find, so you do spend more time with them early on. So maybe not braver, but they're definitely, actually I think they are braver, especially when they're surrounded by all the other members of the pride. So I think it's the same as a leopard cub is far more brave when its mom's there, and the same principle applies to lions. Okay. Let us go down here. Now, I have been checking this western section of Cheetah Plains on a almost bi-weekly basis for the chance of those cubs. And I mean, Wiem and I sat on the boundary looking at that one female down to the west of us, and Jamie that afternoon got a sighting of the cubs. And I think it's about time we have cubs running around the car. I haven't had a photograph of a lion cub since the last time the Sticks had cubs. And that was a bit of a sad story, but it is part of life out here. Those cubs got killed, and Jamie actually saw one of them being carried around by the Birminghams during that very large section of turmoil during the coalition changeover. So I'm just listening to the Game Drive channel carefully. So while I'm listening to the radio, Cheryl's wondering, am I not worried about all the elephants around? Aren't they going to chase the leopards and lions? To a degree, but the leopards and lions will just run a short way before stopping. They're not going to move completely out of an area. Now, they do deal with elephants probably on a daily basis. We're not with those animals all the time. And I'm sure they have a lot to do with elephants and get chased by buffalo and all sorts of other animals. And we're lucky enough when we're there to view it. But they have so many instinctual responses to those type of things. They've been dealing with the elephants since they've been around. Modern lions have probably been around somewhere between 200 and 500,000 years in their current form. They've actually evolved at the same time as human beings actually did. So it's a very interesting relationship we have with lions. During the day, we are the dominant predator, and when you walk into them, they normally run off 99% of the time. And at nighttime, that relationship changes completely, and they are the dominant predator. And it's one of the reasons why when it's dark, we feel safe when we're in a cave or at home. And the world is changing, and especially people living in big cities and that, their sleep cycles and that are very different from what they would have been living out in the bush. But us who live out in the bush, we very much sort of stick to that sort of primordial time zone that when it's dark, it's dangerous. We must get home, we must get into our cave, we must have a fire, it must be safe. Because at night, we lose all our advantage. It doesn't matter how big our brains are. We can't see in the dark. And even with a torch, we can only see a patch in the dark. So very, very interesting if you look into the simultaneous evolution of a lot of animals. Like hyenas is another really interesting one. They have very little natural fear of man. And they're nervous of you, but they will happily come into your camp and scavenge. Human beings have been messy as long as we've been around because we're not able to eat a lot of the stuff we kill. I mean, we can't eat all the bones, we can't do any of that stuff. So hyenas have been scavenging off us for a couple of 100,000 years. And that's also how the domestication of cats and dogs came about. Because of the amount of mess we make, there's always a lot of food around, and those animals were able to capitalize on our messiness. And dogs and cats have worked out in our advantage, and cats keeping pests numbers down. Dogs, strangely enough, were actually probably kept around more for an early warning system. If there was a large predator coming in the night, the dogs would pick up on it before. And that was probably why the domestication of dogs happened. But it's really, really fascinating stuff if you delve a little deeper. Okay. So we've just been chatting about the human-lion dynamic, if you want to call it that. And Sandy says, well, I've heard you guys say you're safe on the vehicle, but what about Steph and old Herbie and Genre as they meander around the bush? Would the lions attack them? So Sandy, as I was saying, man is the dominant diurnal predator. So actually, lions are scared of us during the day. A lion at night is a completely different animal to during the day. Ooh, hyena tracks. And they're very nervous. So I'm just having a look up there. No, very nervous of people during the day. And if they do charge us on foot, it's normally a warning charge. There's no such thing as a mock charge. It's still a charge, but they're just warning. Oh, hello. Those old tracks, it's been so windy, it's quite difficult to tell. No, there's old male line tracks I saw the other day. They're very difficult to see. Okay, so no fresh tracks yet. Sorry, Sandy. So even if they do charge us when we're walking on foot, there's a very simple thing when it comes to walking lions on foot. A noisy lion is a safe lion. A quiet lion is a dangerous lion. And most times the lions will let you know before you get there because they don't want to have that confrontation. They've got hundreds of thousands of years of evolutionary knowledge saying that human beings in daylight hours are dangerous. A group of humans kill a lion. If we look at them, lions or traditionally hunted lions with spears, but in big groups, and very successfully with minimal human casualty. So the lions have this evolutionary knowledge and makes them very nervous of people during the day. At night is a different story. So, did you see him fly there? Just tiny little owlet. He's just, okay, just zoom. I'll show you with my finger. Oh, he flew off. I'll try to catch him again. It looked like a pearl-spotted owlet. He didn't go far. Where'd he go? Where are you, little owl? Oh, he's made an escape. It's a very interesting thing. So when you're walking in the bush on foot, it's actually not, if you know what you're doing, that's I suppose the most important thing. And fortunately, all of us out here have got lots of experience, so we know what we're doing. Sorry, I'm just listening. That is not the news I was looking for, unfortunately. So I'm just trying to listen to decipher what's happening in the game drive. It sounds like the tracks have gone south, but now there's other tracks going the other way. So I'm just listening carefully. Okay. Well, anyway, we're in the area. We're going to look. Maybe they decided to change their mind. You never know. They could find a leopard down here. So this is an area where we might see leopards we haven't seen before. So it sounds like the lions have moved away from us. So we're going to keep looking for anything else we might be able to find here in the east. And while we do that, let's go have a look what Commander Bond is up to.
So what we do have is tracks of one female going sort of the opposite direction to the way that we're going now. But the tracks of the male. So we're going to just drive up the road here and see if we don't get lucky. Herbert is safe and sound and indeed with us. So let's see what we find. Meantime, just have the honey yellow sky there. Jean-Marie, if you don't at that angle. And let's just turn off a bit here and enjoy the silence of this dawn. And you can see those crepuscular rays coming up out of the horizon there. Now, I learned something very interesting about crepuscular rays the other day. Many who belong to the sort of lunatic fringe that believe in the flat earth say, well, you see, how is it possible that if the earth was round and the sun so far away, that those rays could be coming at such an angle? It's just like a light bulb when you shine it on something. And in actual fact, those crepuscular rays are completely parallel with each other. Can you see them there, Jean-Marie? Yes, there they are. You can see them completely parallel with each other, And the reason they look like they converge on one point is the same reason that when you look at a railway track going straight down in a straight direction, going in a straight direction, the tracks seem to converge. So it's, the longer you leave parallel lines, the more they will obviously converge, and it's the same thing with crepuscular rays. Beautiful clouds, Andre. All right, let's carry on here. We're going to drive gently up the road here, and Sandy, while we do that, let me just keep you posted on the weather pattern. Do we get tornadoes here? We get tornadoes in South Africa, where in this area, that I don't... What was that? There must have been a kill there at some stage. So, Sandy, we get tornadoes in the flatlands of an area called Free State, and the Free State is up around, like sort of the flatlands of mid. We do sometimes get tornadoes there. Another thing,
so we've reached the southern corner, or the southwestern corner of Cheetah Plains. The lions are somewhere over there to the south of us. Apparently there's a tree full of vultures as well. So, alas, they avoid me yet again, but I will get them eventually. So they can actually see them now. They found them. They can see them from the boundary, and they are south. So let us continue east. So there's always a chance that we're going to find something else down here, and I'm really hoping to find Tundi's unnamed cub. So I know if you're new, I'm throwing out all these names. Tundi. Now, Tundi is the dominant female leopard around this area, and she has a cub that's independent, and it's more around here. They don't see her very often. It's a very difficult area to work. It's very thick, and there are not many roads. So there's always a chance, and the excitement of finding a new animal is obviously wonderful. Sham's son is reminding me of one of my favorite moments since I've been at Safari Live, and it was in July 2015, and we saw the Inkahuma Pride take down a Duggar boy, an old buffalo bull, live. And she's wondering, how often do we see this type of stuff? I wish we saw it more often. But that, I think, is the first live lion kill we've ever captured on the drives. I know that the hunting takes place while we're cuddled up in bed in the early hours of the morning. Now, to get that kill was actually quite a process. I think that week I spent nearly 18 hours with sleeping lions. But they were hungry. We saw them attempt 4 or 5 kills. So on average, if you're sticking with lions, you've got to see them fail 9 times before they actually catch something. So the hunting success rate is only around sort of 12 to 15%. Normally, I think in this drought year, it probably might raise to maybe 20, 25%. But again, still very, very rare to see that during the day and in a nice open area where you can see everything. So I'm just going to warn you, I'm about to go through this little river system in front of us, and it is one of our notoriously bad gremlin spots. I think they live there. So I'm going to try and get my gremlin stick out. Maybe I'll use this. So I'll try to beat any gremlin that comes near us. If you're new, I'm talking about gremlins. Gremlins are what climb into our signal and make it very bad and make the picture break up. And there are a few blind spots. We do try to cover everywhere. But this is a very deep little river system, and it is one of our potentially bad gremlin spots. They like to inhabit it. So I'm going to try and move through this area quite quickly.
We're just trying to move this tree, everybody. He look alive. And ready, 1, 2. Oh. No. And that you got so. Okay. We're going to leave Herbert to go off on foot here, and we'll go round because clearly we're not going to get past here. It's very inconvenient of the elephants to do that for us. All right, so we'll see if we got more signal for the next 5 minutes. We'll see what happens. Lion track somewhere around here, but let's see what else we can find. Oh. It's always nice to do a bit of exercise on a chilly morning like this. It's not warm yet. I don't think it's going to get warm. What do you think, Jean-Andre?
Quite pleasant.
Quite pleasant. Jean-Andre, of course, likes this weather because he's from the Cape, where the weather is universally foul. And so, for him, this is a balmy and wonderful day. Not so. Now, we were discussing weather patterns, and I was telling you that you do get tornadoes here every so often. Not in this area, but you get them up in the Highveld, which is the highlands of South Africa, the flatlands. Now, hurricanes, of course, we don't get here, and you don't get hurricanes anywhere on the Indian Ocean. A hurricane is the weather pattern that is exactly the same as a cyclone, which we might get off the east coast of Mozambique. So a cyclone and a typhoon and a hurricane are the same weather pattern. It just depends on where you happen to be in the world that they are called different things. So where you are, on the Atlantic coast or the East Atlantic coast of the States, that's where they're called hurricanes. The same weather pattern caused by those sort of vortex-like storms created by, well, various different kinds of meteorological phenomena off the east coast of the Indian Ocean here are called cyclones, and I think in the South China Sea they're called typhoons. I think that's how it works. We don't get them nearly as frequently, I don't think, as you guys do. Although, that said, I mean, there have been years when tropical cyclones come whistling up the Madagascar Straits, which is between Madagascar and Mozambique, and yeah, no, then they can get very heavy. Life can get very unpleasant if you happen to live in Madagascar or in Mozambique. Now we're going to head off towards Sydney's Dam. Well, we're not going to go all the way there because I think we'll lose signal, but we'll head sort of onto the Buffelshoek Cut Line, which is our northern boundary, and then back east and pick up Herbert and just see if we can't find any tracks of these lions going across the reserve. You can see very little general game around at the moment, and that is largely, of course, because there is so little, there's so much wind. It's cold. The animals will be huddling somewhere, trying to find a nice thick bush, just like I was trying to do at the beginning of the drive, when Jean-Andre rudely filmed me while I was having my morning snooze. We should be relatively safe with signal here, so I'll turn up this way. In the rear there are, Andre, one male, one female, but those tracks don't look very fresh. Let's go up onto the main road here and have a look. And by main road I obviously don't mean very main road, mainish for here. You don't see them. Now, there's a nice little patch of sand just up ahead of us, so let's go and look there. Come on, everybody, get off the car. Bit of exercise will be good for you, and it will also, of course, warm up your bones. I thought maybe they may have crossed here. You can see here there's some very rich sand, and the sand is an easy place to spot lion tracks. But I don't see any there. Now, this is... Here they are. There's a male. I don't know where his consort is. But the male's going down this way. Yeah, he's definitely headed straight down the road here. So he's come on to here, and he's walked off down there, and interestingly, we had only tracks of one female going, sort of knocking about where Herbert is, and we were thinking maybe that the male just, wasn't walking on the road when we had the tracks. So let's head down this way. I'm not sure how long the signal will last, but I think it's probably worth just going to have a quick look and seeing if we can't see where these male tracks go. I hope you enjoyed our little walk. You can get back in the car and sit down now. Well done. Chandra, you just sit exactly where you are, all right? Because your little foot is very sore still, isn't it? Yes. Now, Maddie in Scotland, a very nice question from you, and it's a good one. You say, I was speaking about the art of tracking and it being passed on, and whether or not you want to know if it is dying with better education, different career choices. Obviously, following animals is not necessarily what's going to make a living these days. Maddie, I think that's exactly what's going on. It absolutely is dying. Is that a bad thing? I think it's a sad thing, but maybe that's just nostalgia, and maybe I'll just need to get over it. But there are many people. I have a very, very good friend who runs something called the Tracker Academy, and the Tracker Academy is an NGO that spends a lot of money and time training trackers. Now, trackers are quite apart from just being a great source of skill for tourists who come. For as long as tourism exists, trackers will exist. But, as technology goes, I certainly see it.
Joining us for the unveiling or the exploration of the massive open area that's coming up. And this is the spot where we've seen the cheetah the most often, and we haven't seen cheetah in quite a while, so really hoping we don't just see tracks and we actually see an animal. Now I'm just going to go over this bump and I'm going to switch off the engine and we're going to coast down the hill towards the open area. So I want you to send all the positive energy to the Cheetah Plains open area. Hopefully there is something fascinating there. If not, it is a beautiful view. Okay, now I'm scanning as we come through. We can see the vast open area, and I'm seeing it. But with these big open areas, it's always worthwhile having a glass. Now, when I say a glass, it is I think it's an old military term, which means stopping and glassing with your piece of glass, which in my case is my binoculars. And in your case, it's going to be Gerard glassing with the camera for you. Cheetah are one of the hardest of the big cats to spot when they are not moving, because they lie very, very flat. So there we go. We're going to have a look across this open area. Gerard's going to show it you with the camera, and I'm going to use my binoculars. Not much happening, especially with this wind. I'm sure you can hear it on the top mic. It's gusting wind. Okay, so let's carry on to the next section of the open area, maybe a bit more luck there. Now, we've been talking about success rates with hunts and killing, etc. Matthew's wondering who's got higher success rates, lions or lioness? Well, Matthew, it's about the same. Again, it's about 12 to 15%. When hunting big game like giraffe or hippo or buffalo, the success rate is improved by having a male lion there, just because they're physically that much stronger. But again, when they're by themselves, it's about the same as the lion is. Oh, sorry, my ear is falling out. The wind is buffeting. And to show you how strong the wind is, if I take my hat off, you can see really blowing. That was a bad idea. That was cold. Now my ears are cold. Now there's very little water in this area, so our plan is, while we're down here, once we finish checking the open plains, I'm going to check the Kruger boundary, and then I'm going to go through to the only two bits of water that are on this eastern side of Cheetah Plains. Cheetah Plains Pan and 3 in a row pan, and hopefully we will find something there. I mean, there's not even the normal hornbills that we see. Oh, there they are, and we've got some lapwings. I was wondering, we almost always see a hornbill. Oh, and it's flying away now, but we've got, oh, everything. Here we go. They didn't fly too far, fortunately. Some crowned lapwings. Now, all the lapwing species really like this open areas. And I'm trying to see quite often, sometimes you might see them have a chick. But it doesn't look like they have a chick at the moment. We also have seen a bird, and only once, a Temix corsa, which is a smaller than a lapwing that also likes these open areas. And I'm hoping we'll be able to find some interesting birds and some new birds for the bird lists. But unfortunately, this really windy weather is not great for birding. The majority of the species are going to be tucked up, fluffed up in a little ball in the tree. Okay, let me just... Now, not only do we see cheetah here, we often see ostrich. We haven't seen them for a while. And Christopher, hi Christopher, who's in Arizona, he's wondering when we're going to see ostrich again. Christopher, if I knew, I'd be very happy, but I'm not sure. I'm going to have a quick look in this little basin here and just let Carrot know our aerial's fallen down as well. It's going to be interesting. Ostrich like dry environments, arid environments. So not as water dependent as a lot of other creatures, but hopefully they will make an appearance. And one thing that's bantered about a lot between cameramen and presenters is the fact that when are we going to see a cheetah chasing an ostrich? Because cheetah like ostrich meat. I've seen them hunt ostrich all over Africa, actually. I've seen them in South Africa, in Zululand. I've seen them do it in Botswana, in the Kalahari Desert. I've seen them do it in the Okavango Delta. I've seen them do it in Tanzania and Kenya. Now, I've never seen them do it in the Sabi Sands or the Greater Kruger. So there we go. That's definitely one we're going to have to hopefully find. Cheetah chasing ostrich. Literally, I was just saying to Gerard, we've only seen Steenbok tracks. My earpiece seems to be giving me a bit of grief at the moment. And that should hold. One of the very exciting things about this particular little area we're about to go through now, it is where we had our first ever pangolin sighting on the live drives, and it is not uncommon to see pangolin again and again in similar areas. So I'm always on the lookout for the pangolin when we come towards this area. Now it's a very cold morning, so maybe that pangolin's still out and about. Well, at least, you know, literally the only fresh tracks we've seen are for a Steenbok. Everything else is quite old. Unfortunately, I've just heard that there are tracks of Nkanyini, the dominant female leopard in the eastern section here, and unfortunately they've crossed out of our traverse area, but there's still a chance that there could be a male around. And as I said, we've got the whole of Cheetah Plains to ourselves. We are the only vehicle. Isn't that wonderful? So every road we drive on, no one else has driven here yet today. We're going to continue scouring the east for any form of animal with a heartbeat. While we do that, let's see if James is having a little more success than us.
Okay, copy. Right, lion tracks have gone north. Sorry about, I forget exactly what we were talking about when I last saw you. But we're here looking at some clouds, and we're looking at some cirrus clouds. Those are the wispy ones at the top, also known as the mane's, at least the mare's tail. Why it should be a mare and not a stallion, I don't know, but there it is, there's the mare's tail. And they're indicative of cold weather. Well, we could have told you that without those clouds, of course, and they're apparently made of little frozen icicles. Deep, very high up in the atmosphere there, and indicative of the beginnings of a cold front. Well, I think we're well past the beginnings. Something has just walked across the road in front of us. It was large and grey. I think it was an elephant. Let's just go and have a look and see. It's quite nice to look at an animal, don't you think, Jandre?
Yeah.
Yes. Very nice. See if we can maintain signal for more than 2.5 minutes. We will drive a little bit carefully along here, just in case we don't spot some tracks. Herbert's found some leopard tracks, so he's going to continue on foot, and we'll head off towards Buffelshoek Dam and see if there isn't anything there. I can't imagine too many will be running around trying to get something to drink this morning, but maybe. Pop up the other side here. Ah, yes, tracking question from Maggie in Scotland. Now, so I was just saying that I think it is dying. I think it is important in many respects, but maybe I'm just being nostalgic. And I was just saying that I think the day will come, of course, when animals are found completely digitally, when the skills that have stood the local people of this area in such good stead for so long have been, you know, they must inevitably die out, I suppose, because of there is an elephant up ahead walking across the road. But they must inevitably die out in the digital age. I imagine that animals will be kept or viewed and found with probably chips. They'll probably be able to be found with, I mean, we've experimented with thermal imaging drones that are able to find animals, and so I think that's probably eventually where it will go. Is that sad? Yes, I guess it is sad. Is it important? I don't know. You know, there are thousands of different cultural norms that have died through the ages that because they've been replaced by technology, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And so often I think it's just nostalgia. But for the moment, a very important part of the life of many people out here is the art of tracking. And so I think for the next little while, it'll certainly be around, but I don't think it's going to be I think it's going to become an increasingly specialized skill. And it's becoming increasingly popular with, you know, sort of Western urban dwellers who use it as a form of touching the wilderness, as a connection with wilderness. It's as you would go hiking or mountain biking or something like that, or just nature trailing in general. That kind of activity which brings you closer to the wild. Tracking is just one of those ways that you can sort of touch nature, if you like. And I think it's being increasingly used for that rather than actually practically. And that's great. That's another avenue that might keep it going for slightly longer. These elephants are running. They came through here at high speed. There they are. I think they're going perhaps towards the pan for water. I'm just going to ease our way in here because they don't look very happy. They're moving quite fast. There's one now. She's just turning to face us. I'm just going to go around the corner, give Jean-André a slightly better option. You know, he gets very fussy, Jean-André, if you don't park him in exactly the right position. Right, well, here's something of a picture of them. They are moving quite swiftly to the south. And I wonder if they're not going towards the Gallagher Pan for a drink. We will follow them down the road here. Christopher, you are wondering about that tree that Herbert and I failed dismally to move out of the road, and you want to know if the elephants have pushed it across the road intentionally in order to block it. No, I don't think so. I'm 95% sure that they just pushed it over to get at the leaves, and because they do it all over the place in the middle of the bush, and I don't think the road is a particularly important sort of part of the ecology for them. So I don't think they've blocked it because they don't want us to go there or something like that. The reason I don't dismiss that completely out of hand is that I think elephants and many animals do act in a much more conscious manner than we think they do a lot of the time. Herbert's got some tracks heading straight towards the Gallagher waterhole. I'm just going to ease down the road here. There we go, here's the matriarch now. She's listening very carefully to us. There she is. Let's just give her a chance to become calm and be calmed. See her listening? She's decided we're okay now. Now they are not just walking straight through the bush, they're walking on a game path. There's a definite path there that I think will take them into the drainage line. You can see that the bush is getting very thick there. That's because it's a dry riverbed. And I think this path will take them into it and across it and then down towards the Gallagher waterhole. They may take, a couple of hours to get there. They may have decided that this is a good spot to stop and eat their breakfast. It makes me hungry thinking about that. This cold morning. Just going to move forward slightly. Oh no, in fact, let's stay here. I think this might be quite a good place to be. Herbert is following some further tracks towards the Gallagher Pan. I think they're leopard tracks. So we're in a good area. Chester, that's a really interesting question. You say, could an elephant survive with only 3 legs in the same way that a dog could? I don't think so. There are many animals out here that I've seen, and I saw an incredible video the other day of a hyena it's paraplegic. It walks on 2 legs. It walks on only its front legs. It's the most unbelievable thing to see. It balances on just its front 2 legs and moves around. Could an elephant do the same thing? Almost certainly not, because they're not designed in the same way. They're much less flexible because they're that much heavier. If they were to lose a leg, could they survive in the wild? No, I think they wouldn't. I think they have to move too far. I've certainly never seen it. But I'd be very interested if anybody's ever heard or seen an elephant that has only 3 legs and is able to survive. Certainly, I mean, in the absence of predators, all of the carnivores can survive with 3 legs. We know that dogs and cats can very successfully get on with it. I've seen monkeys, many, many monkeys that are missing a limb. I've seen a monkey that's missing 2 limbs and surviving very happily. Well, relatively happily. Let me just turn that down. So, an elephant, I don't know why I get the impression they're too heavy, and that they would probably topple over if they had to try and walk on 3 legs. Remember that they can't jump. Now, that may sound like a sort of a twee statement, but if you can't jump, you can't run. And if you can't run, you can't really move on fewer legs than you're supposed to have, if you know what I mean, because you've always got to be in contact with the ground. So there we go. That's why I'm going to say they are unable to live with 3 legs. I don't think they could move. This chap in here getting stuck into whatever his desired breakfast is. Zebra bush Benedict this morning. Do you like that hilarious joke there, Jean-Andre? Very good. And Blue Butterfrog, you say, despite your... included in your daily dose of sarcasm from me, you need a daily dose of elephants. I feel exactly the same. I feel all is right with the world when I'm watching elephants just feeding and behaving normally. This, of course, can change to everything being very wrong with the world if an elephant decides it doesn't want you to be around and gives chase, but these ones mercifully haven't done that. And this one is just enjoying some fresh zebra wood shoots. Amazing how brilliant that colour grey is, I think. People so often ask, what should we wear on safari? What should we come out in? And I remember once going to fetch a family. They were just landed at the airstrip at the reserve I worked on. They climbed out of the aeroplane, and they were all dressed in matching safari outfits. That clearly some salesman had seen them coming a mile off and sold them. And I think he was quite put out that I wasn't dressed in the same thing. "Are we wearing the white clothes?" he said to me. I think he was from Munich. I said, "Well, yes, I'm sure they'll be fine." And of course, grey. Nobody comes on safari wearing grey because nobody really likes to wear grey, but it is actually the best colour to be. That's 3.5 tons of animal, everybody, staring at us from no more than 20 feet away, and it's almost completely invisible. And Justin, we were talking about the absence of a limb on an elephant, and I think we've decided that they would not survive without a limb. And Justin, you want to know if they would survive without a trunk. Well, we can actually answer that with some certainty and say yes, because we know of at least 3 elephants in this area that have various bits and pieces of their trunks missing. And a bull we saw the other day on Arathusa had, I think he had probably 80% of his trunk missing. He probably had 20% of it left. And yes, it dripped, but he was in good condition and didn't look like it was an old injury, so it looked like it had been gone for a long time. And all he did when he came into an area like this on the zebra wood, instead of kind of picking things with his trunk, he would wedge a branch between his tusks and the top of his trunk and then break it off. And then he'd kind of very skillfully slip the piece that he'd chosen into his mouth. And he was unable, if you watch this elephant now, watch how it picks up what it's going to eat. Please do what I'm trying to demonstrate, Mr. Elephant. Right, okay. Breaks it off with the foot and then puts it into the mouth. He couldn't do that. He couldn't even reach his mouth with his trunk. And so he rested it kind of on the edge and then with his bottom jaw kind of scooped it in there. And then a lot of the rest of the time he'd actually just put his mouth over whatever he wanted to eat, so he'd get his face right into a zebra wood bush like this and just bite off pieces, and that was effective. And then when he drinks, he goes down on his knees. Brent's seen him drinking. He goes down on his knees to drink in much the same way that an elephant calf, who has no control over its trunk yet, would do. So yes, they can survive quite successfully. Life probably more difficult, probably won't live as long as an elephant with a full-grown trunk, and probably won't be able to enjoy, say, so for example, I mean a great example of fruit or food that they won't be able to eat. That elephant will really struggle to eat marula fruits during the marula fruiting season, which is in January, and that's simply because they ripen on the ground and he will not be able to pick them up. He cannot reach the ground with his trunk. But that's, you know, that's one season. Let me just go forward. And they're all disappearing off into the drainage here. This is Mvubu Road, everybody. It's the road that we initially thought the lions might be on, but they are not. They are now in Buffelshoek, which we cannot go to. The wind might be dropping slightly, but the temperature certainly isn't going up. That lovely deep blue winter sky is starting to form up above us, and I'm sure in the shelter of that thick bush those elephants are enjoying the feeling of the sun on their skins. We had a lovely discussion yesterday about whether or not elephants get cold, or whether some of the smaller animals, or how being cold affects smaller versus bigger animals. And of course elephants get colder and hotter much more slowly than smaller animals, and so they won't have the same necessity to be out in the sun like something like a dwarf mongoose or an elephant shrew, for example. Sarah, I have to say I've absolutely no idea. You say, do I think that elephant feet were the inspiration for the design of the NASA moon boots? John Drake, any idea? No. I don't think so, Sarah. An elephant's foot, it's actually quite an interesting question, because it brings up, you know, the design of an elephant's foot. Elephant's foot is a hugely thick callus underneath, and that's to protect it against rocks and thorns and that sort of thing that might sort of infect it, like Hoppy Pussfoot here on the back of the vehicle. He doesn't have a callus on the bottom of his foot. That's what it's designed for, and it's also designed as a shock absorber. Obviously, when an elephant moves, there's a tremendous amount of mass that must be maintained and held by those incredible feet, and so there's a lot of shock absorption. The NASA moon boot, I think, was ostensibly designed to make sure that whoever was wearing it didn't float off into space too fast. So I think they were probably quite a lot heavier than than an elephant's foot proportionately, and I think shock absorbing was the very last thing that they needed to be able to do. So Sarah, that's my guess. I may be quite wrong though. Just listening to Herbert on the radio. Nothing further. All right, let's move on down the road here and see what we can find. Oh, but before we do that, of course, let's head across to Brent Leo Smith, who has managed to find a fallen tree.
You've just been with elephants with James, and I want to show you how strong an elephant can be. We've seen them push over some smallish trees, but this time they've managed to push over a massive tree. So if we have a look, this is an acacia, a big knobthorn. Now, the interesting thing about these is they have a tap root system. You can see the size of it here. And they've managed to push. This must have been a massive elephant bull to be able to push this tree over. So they've got a very deep root system. So not too many of these roots that spread out along just a little below the surface. But they've got this big thing that goes right down. You can see the hole that's been created by the pushing over of this tree. Hopefully there are no snakes in here. And you can see all the different roots that have been broken. But I mean, this is incredible. And how strong this animal is. I reckon it's a big bull, probably weighing around 12,000 pounds. And you can have a look. Let's see. We can do a bit of balancing. And you can see that they've fed on this tree. The wind nearly blew me over. It's so windy. You can see they've fed on this tree. And they've, well, let me just get to the right spot. So basically what's happened, you can see this is even too high for an elephant bull to reach these branches. So they fed off all the lower branches, and got to a stage now, and we're heading into a drought, so they're really hungry. They've pushed the whole tree down, and they've literally dismantled all the little branches, and I'm pretty sure they're probably, other elephants will come back and finish. You might find impala coming to feed off the leaves that have been pushed down. Trying to see if there's anything else in here. And it's even broken the branches on the tree behind. But I mean, this is an incredibly big tree, even for a massive animal like an elephant to push down. Oh, isn't that amazing? I want to show you something quickly. I need to move the car for it, though. So, I said the elephants have pushed that down, but they missed something. We have seen elephants feeding off it quite often. It is incredible. So there's still some soil attached to those root systems. And if we have a look over here, so firstly, the tree is not dead yet. As you can see, there's still a little one growing. And quite often when you see these trees that have been pushed down by elephants, they start growing in a different manner. So you'll notice that this might become the primary stem, this tiny little branch here. And that's quite new, and it's unusual, as you can see, to find branches like that. But the thing I spotted first was the asparagus. The wild asparagus is still growing out of this lump of soil that's still attached to the root system. And if we look even closer, over here is another tree species. This is a false marula that's also still growing out of this clump of clay, and it's actually just sprung a leaf. Incredible. Now, the asparagus, probably not going to survive, but there's a good chance that this false marula might survive. What often happens in situations like this is that they will start extending roots back down to the ground. But I think this tree, if the elephants don't feed on it too much, it's actually going to start growing over here. There's still enough roots that are in the soil that it's hopefully going to be able to survive. Now, elephants are really important in the environment because they do change their environment. Oh, Normal Norman, the wildebeest's watching me. Let's go have a look at him while I continue to chat. But, I mean, this is a really big tree, even for a really big elephant to push down, especially with that tap root system. Oh, chilly. So, a herd of impala and Normal Norman, Gormless Norman, the wildebeest's arch nemesis from the open area across the way, was watching me as I was prancing about on that tree. We'll go see if we can have a look at them. Nice herd of impala and just the lone male wildebeest. Shamsung's wondering, could it have been a group effort to push down that massive acacia tree? No, I think that was a single bull from the tracks around and the dung there. I think it was just a single bull. Other elephants have come and fed off it, but I think it was just a single individual that actually did the pushing. Oh, this is a bad direction to drive because the wind's coming from behind us and I can actually taste the sand and the dust crunching between my teeth. Okay. Oh, and there's some kudu here as well. Oh, little fluffy ball, little kudu. Got a bit of a fright there. Hello. You can see them. See that white tail as it disappears around the corner? Let's go forward a bit. So as I said, a lot of the animals, oh there we go, are going to be very nervous in this windy weather. And you can see that female kudu, because she's got a youngster, she's probably twice as skittish as she would normally be, and doubled with the fact that there's this gusting wind that's going to affect her hearing and her smell. Oh, they're running across in front of us. Now, one thing runs, everything runs, is a rule of the bush. The impala have now started running. They're not sure why they're running. And now the wildebeest's also unsure why. If he sees kudu running, he's thinking, ooh, what's going on? So there's normal Norman, looking bemused. The bemused look is definitely a look the wildebeest pull off the best. There we go. It's not uncommon to find these dominant wildebeest bulls that are protecting their little patch of open area to team up with other animals. The more eyes around, the better chance you have at spotting any predators around. So he's with a little bachelor herd of impala. And off he goes. So we haven't quite made it to the water holes yet, so that's where we're heading next. I just need to get out of this area because we're really, really low here and our comms can be a bit difficult. Fluffy impalas. Everyone's chilly this morning. Oh, there are some ladies. Only two. And there's a whole bunch of young boys to our left, but there's the big male who's keeping his very small harem, and keeping himself between him and the others, his females and the males. And none of them are particularly old males. They all look like they're about 2 years old, the young males, and you can see he's an adult. He's actually a really nice big impala. You can see how red he is in this cold wind, all fluffed up for the warmth. So I'm just going to try to get up to some higher ground, and hopefully, I think this wind and this weather is playing havoc with our comms today. I've never had them this bad in this area, and I can unfortunately barely make out a word. So it's not that I'm ignoring your questions, I just can't hear them right now, so I'm going to head up to where a little bit higher where I know I should be able to hear a little bit better. And that's what this aerial is here. That is our comms back to final control. Now, I think it might be getting colder, even though the sun's up. We're going to head towards the water holes now. Hopefully we have some action around there. But while we do that, let's go see how James is doing on the other side of the reserve.
So cold. We've come now to the east. We're going towards Buffelshoek Dam, as we intended to do earlier. And I was rather hoping just to maybe pick up some tracks of that lioness who we think has got cubs and is perhaps lactating somewhere close by here in the Great Valley of the Mulwati. We think that those cubs are now probably about 2 or 3 weeks old, and so we're not going to go wandering in there just yet. But she's going to come out fairly soon, and then we'll have cubbies all over the place. Just to keep you posted on the Nkuhuma lionesses, their cubs are, or the Nkuhuma lioness who has had cubs, her cubs are fine on Torchwood, the ones that have been seen, and she's being viewed at the moment. I don't think they have any sight of the cubs, but I believe that the 2 little cubs that have been seen are absolutely fine. Unfortunately, Karula seems to have given us the slip yet again, gone down to the south on Little Gowrie, where the pickings are clearly easier than they are here. We're going to go up this rather treacherous road. Erlene, I'm sorry, I forgot completely about your question. Due to lack of signal, we lost it while I was answering. Now, human beings are by nature, well, some of us by nature are egalitarian, which means we hate each other's pain, and we hate the sight of orphans, and we don't want to be, we want to alleviate the suffering of orphans. I'm going to try and move this particular tree. While I do that, I'll answer Erlene's question. And so it is not uncommon for people to ask questions about animals that are a bit like us in that respect. So they look after the orphaned youngsters. And of course, elephants are the most obvious example. They definitely take on and adopt any youngsters whose mothers have died, as long as there's a lactating female around. Now this is a Ziziphus tree, which means that I'm probably going to get hurt quite badly, and then I might say a bad word, but I'm going to try not to. And Erlene, lions, of course, are the other obvious example of animals that do exactly that. They don't necessarily adopt them, but they will certainly, I'm not having much success today, but they will certainly cross-suckle. So should a lioness die and there be another lactating female within the pride, then they will absolutely look after that little cub. But if there is no lactating female in the pride, then they won't.
Tree's
So,
still there, James. It's still there.
Yes, I know the tree's still there. Do you want to do it? Hoppy Pussfoot? No, Hoppy Pussfoot can't move, so he can't help me, you see. I think somebody else has tried to move this tree, so we're going to have to just go around it. So, Erlene, lions, yes, if there's another lactating female in the pride. But if, no non-pride member is going to adopt cubs that it finds. Has it ever happened before? It's possible. Is it likely to happen? Very unlikely. Oh, very nice. Brent has got some primates to show you.
There's some very unimpressed looking primates. They don't like the cold as well. And they're sitting trying to warm up, and you can see how strong that wind is. Is that a... Oh, there we go. It's not looking very happy with life. Sitting in a small, what looks to be a false marula. Now, we caught them out in the open, and that was the closest tree, and still looking very unimpressed with life. They're not really feeding yet. We can only see 2. I think the rest are in the thick bush behind. You can see they got the safety of that big tree in case anything comes. Now, what we really want to see monkeys doing is shouting an alarm, calling, "What did you spot? Oh, there's another one." I didn't even see that one. Well spotted. Facing east, warming, or trying to get warm from the sun. And I think this cold wind is not helping. We'll leave the monkeys to warm up, and we're about to arrive at the first of the water holes. Now, Tammy's wondering what animals do best in the colder weather. Well, the cats generally. So the cats are more mobile, maybe not do best in the colder weather. Oh, no, hyena tracks. So they're likely to be mobile longer and later into the morning during the cold weather. Monkeys and really don't like the cold, and in the early winter mornings, you'll often find them like that, basking, trying to get a bit of warmth. And what do we have at the pan today? Oh, we have some go-away birds drinking. Oh, now flying. You can see how the wind's taking that one. He tried to fly straight and then the wind caught him. We've got some Cape turtle doves at the inlet there. Now, early morning, late afternoon, and the doves will generally drink. Now, you can drink at any time of the day, but you generally find congregations of them in the early morning or late afternoon. There's lots of them landing there. And choosing to drink a little bit back from the main body of water, a little bit safer. Although that one, there's a dove that likes to live on the edge. Ooh, thirsty as well, putting his whole nose under the water. Oh, and off. Oh. I mean, if we have a look here, you can see the strength of the wind. Look how the ripples. And it's not a warm wind, I promise you that. Oh, it's cold. We've got one more waterhole to check, and it is a favorite hangout of a favorite leopard of a lot of ours, and that is the quarantine male leopard. And he hasn't been seen in a while, so maybe, hopefully, he makes an appearance at the 3 in a row pan. And it's the only place I've seen him on cheetah plains since he's departed his natal territory, which is his mom's territory, since he's become an independent, nomadic young man. And he has spent quite a bit of time in this area. So hopefully the fact that there's water at 3 in a row pan now, oh, we're back in the dust again. Now I've got to drive faster than the wind to try and keep out of the dust before we can turn. But it's not working. This wind is very, very strong. Keeps catching us. Well, I'm not going to need any breakfast with the amount of sand that we've been eating this morning. I did hear there was a question coming in. There we go. I can hear now. Joey is asking, what has been my best big cat sighting ever? Oh, Joey, that is a very difficult question. I've had such amazing sightings over my years in the bush. But it's so hard to choose one, but I'll tell you about one that I particularly enjoyed, and it was with lions in northern Botswana. Pride, there was about 5 or 6 females and 1 young male who must have been about 1.5 years, 2 years old. And we were sitting watching the lions, and nothing but a honey badger starts jogging down the road, probably about 50 or 60 meters from where the lions were sleeping. And the lionesses sort of put their heads up, had one look and thought, hell no. Boom, back to sleep. The young male, being a young male of course, decided, no, this looks like something I should catch. And he runs up to it, the honey badger arches it back, puts its tail in the air, and it starts spraying out of its anal gland, so it's a mustelid, so like a weasel, so like a skunk. They can excrete a foul-smelling substance from their anal gland. The male lion, fortunately for him, didn't get a full blast, and he managed to get hold of the honey badger, but now he didn't know what to do with it. He didn't want to bite it. It was obviously very smelly and bad tasting now. He had his paw on it, on the middle of its back, and this honey badger was flat in the sand like this, making the most awful rattling racket. Now the male lion didn't know what to do, because this honey badger has a very loose skin and a very thick layer of skin. It's one of the reasons they're so tough. And they can almost turn around in their skin. So this lion's now got it as flat as possible, so he can't escape. Oh, don't run away. There's some little steenbokkies, but they're disappearing. Very nervous in this wind. Oh, Murphy's Law. Soon as you stop, they disappear. But we'll carry on with that, the lion and the honey badger. So he must have sat. Now he's got his standing there with his paw flat on the honey badger, not knowing what to do for a good 45 minutes. Then it started to get dark, and the lionesses start stretching and grooming, and he's probably about 50 meters away from the rest of the pride, and he's watching them. He's sort of looking at the honey badger, looking at his moms and his aunts, and he doesn't know what to do. The lionesses then just start moving away from him. And he keeps watching them until they literally disappear out of sight. Now, the honey badger has been quiet for quite a while. Obviously, he's been pinned to the ground. Botswana is sort of very, very sandy, so it's this thick sand. So he's sort of half buried in the sand, being pushed down by this lion. Now, the lionesses have gone. The young male's now, he's got that very bemused, almost distraught look on his face. Now, what do I do with this snarling, angry, smelly ball of fur that's under my paw? And you can almost see the cognition process going through this male lion's head. He's like, okay, I don't want to bite it. I just want to get away from it now. And he keeps his paw flat on it, and you can almost see him counting sort of 1, 2, 3. And on 3, he pushes that honey badger almost under the sand and leaps and runs off in the direction of the lionesses. This honey badger gets up, and fortunately for that young male lion, honey badgers are not very fast. And sort of chasing after this lion, and this lion going at top speed to get away from the honey badger. I think that's one of my favorite big cat sightings I've ever had. It still makes me laugh today. Tiny little black and white ball pounding after this male lion, who was literally running as if there was an elephant behind him. After about 60 meters, the honey badger gave up. I've just been speaking about honey badgers, and okay, because everything's so skittish in this wind, we're going to stop here and have a long distance visual of a kudu. There. I think if we drive any closer, she might run away. Here we go. There she is. They're going to be super alert with this strong wind. Watch her ears rotate. Sean, I haven't forgotten about you. I will get back to your honey badger question. There we go. Also, standing in a nice sunny spot to warm up. It's a very, very nerve-wracking time for the herbivores when these strong winds are about. Well, let's leave her be and go check the water hole. Sean is wondering, do we ever see honey badgers on our drive? We do. They are quite rare, and they don't occur, not rare, they just don't occur in high densities. And also the type of bush that we mostly have around here makes them more difficult to see. We probably are going to have a few more sightings during the dry season and during the drought. And we've seen them a couple of times this year. And Sean also was wondering which habitat they prefer. They're actually an amazing generalist. They can live in most habitats. I've seen honey badgers in the Central African rainforests. I've seen them in the Kalahari Desert. So they're an incredibly adaptable species that occurs over a wide range of habitats. But again, they don't occur in high density, so there's not that many of them around. But if you do find a nice spot, you can see them quite often. And we have seen them a lot on sort of Cheetah Cutline on Djuma, and also around Zoe's Road. But I haven't seen them in a while. I think about 2 weeks ago was the last time I saw a honey badger. But we find their tracks all over the place. The other thing is they cover such vast distances. And sort of like a hyena, they walk everywhere. But hopefully, we will be seeing more of them, as I said, as this drought takes hold. Oh, see, everything's running. There's an impala running off. So much dust, I can barely see my monitor. Everything's very nervous at the moment in this strong wind. So we're about to arrive at 3 in a row pan, and we'll have a quick look, see if there's any animals at the water. Fingers crossed. There seems to be a leopard lounging next to the water. We can hope. This section's dry. There should be water in the next one. Well, there was last time I was down here. There is water. No lounging leopard, unfortunately. So we're going to keep checking around Cheetah Plains, but I think we're going to start making our way back towards the north. And while we do that, let's go see how James is doing and if his hair is blowing in the wind.
Of course, that's not an amusing joke that Brent Leo Smith has made about my hair, and nobody should laugh at it. Genre, are you laughing?
Hysterical.
Yeah, you see, Genre is not amused at all. There, everybody, is a Birchall's starling sitting glistening in the morning sun. We've managed to find a slightly sheltered spot here, so it's not blowing too strongly, which is a mercy. But we are at Buffelshoek Dam, and Buffelshoek Dam seems to be in the stages of some vast expansion. And I'll show you what I mean shortly, once that Birchall starling has moved out of the way. There it has. Let's just turn, and I'll show you what I mean.
I'm stopping.
Now, it's the landowner's firm belief that there is going to be an enormous flood after the dry season, and it's not just a belief. I mean, he's done quite a lot of research into it, and so the dams are being bolstered and expanded so that should the water come in a great deluge come the rainy season, then we won't lose it all and the dams won't be washed away. So Buffelshoek Dam for the next probably 2 or 3 weeks is going to look a little bit like a construction site, so I do warn you. But after that, of course, hopefully there will be lots of water here. Anyway, it's extensive earth-moving works going on here. Not a simple operation to expand a dam like this. It'll be fascinating to know what it'll look like after a very full sort of rainy season. Hello, Key John. An interesting question from you while we sit here, and I guess it's an appropriate one while we sit here looking at, well, some construction. And I think it's a fascinating one that is it's not very easy to answer, but it is an interesting discussion. You say, is it true that African wildlands will one day all be covered in houses? The answer is I don't know. But that's the short answer. The long answer is probably long after the wildlands of the United States and the wildlands of Asia are covered in houses. Africa is much less populated density-wise than the continental United States. There's a zebra. Good grief, there's a mammal, everybody. It's going down to have a drink. Miracles never cease. Let's quickly go down there. So, Kijon, I will answer your question. Let's just quickly have a look at these zebra, as they're the only mammals I've seen the whole day, other than those very nice elephants we had the privilege of viewing. Now, I'm just going to approach them very slowly because they are nervous when they drink. They're scared of predators that might want to come and eat them while they're in the vulnerable state of having their heads down and drinking. Let's turn off here. Just ease our way down. Don't panic, chaps. Don't. Oh, come on now. Don't be silly. One of them's absolutely fine. Oh, we'll show you him. I think they'll come back if we stop. You can see sufficiently there, can you, Gendry? There we go. Bit of an angle. Zebra, of course, very water dependent. It's not ideal to be water dependent in this particular area. Well, I guess if they're building a dam like this, it probably doesn't matter. You can probably be a whale and be sort of sufficiently sorted with water. That's really nice to see. I don't know why it is that we enjoy seeing animals drinking. I find it most entertaining. Well, not entertaining, it's just peaceful almost, I guess. Here come the others. And they really are very nervous. Galloping about the place. Oh well, I wonder why. I mean, they're naturally pretty nervous. Here comes one round the corner again. They really have got nothing to be worried about now. I suppose in general they have quite a lot to be worried about. Coming back now. It's quite nice. Now they're coming trotting back. Now trotting back again. Very skittish. Now, I mean, I know I'm making light of the situation, and it is quite amusing. But the reason they are nervous, of course, is that they are vulnerable when they drink. All animals are vulnerable when they drink, because their heads are not up, and they're simply not looking for what might want to come and eat them. There we go. There we go, chaps. This is ridiculous. I suppose zebra may be a little bit... No, they're not more nervous than others. They may have had a rough night, of course. I mean, I'm being silly, of course, because we know that the wind is definitely going to affect how they feel now. And I suspect quite strongly that's all that's going on. The wind has probably just made them very nervous. As well it should. They can't hear or smell what's coming to get them. Those two are particularly terrified. Come on, chaps. Have a drink. all 4 of them. Now, if I slightly move the car, they're all going to run away terrified. Now, why I say they're water dependent is, of course, well, they do need to drink water, and it's one of the reasons that they've been so successful in the Kruger Park is because of the provision of artificial water. And we have spoken about this, but it really is true. They are so successful here and in the Kruger Park to the expense, in many respects, of so many other animals, because they're also very effective grazing competitors. They're able to eat some pretty rough food, and in a drought situation like this one, or that we seem to be going into, given the fact that we've had a very poor rainy season and we're already going into a dry season now, they are ideally adapted for that if there's artificial water. They can keep eating the driest, most seemingly nutrient-free food, almost like straw, but because they are not ruminants, now that means that they don't re-chew their food. It means that they are able to process as much food as they need to. If you're a ruminant, you eventually have to stop eating. You must go and lie down somewhere and chew your cud. That is an absolute essential part of being a ruminant. And while that's very efficient and it's a good way of getting nutrients out of food, once the quality of the food drops below a certain level, it becomes a hindrance because you can't eat any more. Now, in the case of the zebra, they don't have to do that. And so while their digestive systems are not nearly as efficient as a ruminant's, once the food quality drops below a certain level, they just keep eating more. And so in a drought situation, they tend to fare fairly well as long as there is this kind of artificial water, which all over the Kruger Park there is. Yeah, it's definitely the wind that's making them skittish. They're skittish at the best of times, but the wind is making them nervous. It looks to me like they can almost smell something on the wind. Maybe there is the scent of predator in the air. There was a leopard track heading this way. Herbert found some male leopard tracks heading this way. Maybe his scent is on the wind, and maybe they've got him in their noses, and that's what's making them a little nervous. Let's drive around that way. We'll just see if we can't pick up any tracks. But that was really quite a nice sighting. Let's see if I can get this car out of here. So I think it was John Key or Key John. Was it Key John? So Key John, the question about whether or not African wild lands will be covered in houses. Africa only very recently reached 1 billion people. Now, that's a lot of people, but it's nothing like as densely populated, as I say, as the continental United States, and even less densely populated than India or most of Asia, or certainly the warmer parts of Asia. So while, yes, there are 1 billion people in Africa, Africa is a much more massive, for example, than India. And India has 1 billion people in it, and you could probably fit about 6 or 7 Indias into Africa. And so the chances of the wild areas of this continent being built up with houses before the rest of the world are very, very small indeed. They also have, in most African countries, you know, we have such a dependence on tourism. There goes the zebra. We have such a dependence on tourism that to sort of overtake our national parks with human settlement would be economically suicidal. And while, yes, there are certainly many African economies that do seem to be economically suicidal, I think you'll find that most have the wisdom to keep their wild areas free of human habitation, because that's where all the jobs come from, or so many jobs come from. So no, I don't think African wildlands are going to be covered in houses. And I would go as far as to say that it's even slightly unfair to say that that might be the case, because of course, in terms of an environmental footprint on the earth, the average African has got probably less than a 20th the effect of the average Western urbanite. Justin, another lovely question about evolution and ecology and human ecology, which is one of my very favorite subjects. You say, what would happen if human beings were to die out tomorrow, say a disease wiped us out, who would become the dominant species on the planet? Well, it depends how you look at it. Are we the dominant mammal species? Yes, I suppose we probably are the dominant mammal species. Would we be replaced by one species? In all likelihood not. In all likelihood, because we've covered so much of the planet's, well, we've covered absolutely every single ecosystem in the planet. If we were to disappear from every ecosystem, there's no other species on Earth that would be able to adapt to all of those environments and dominate in every single environment. So I think you'd find that over the course of, I mean, we'd talk a couple of thousand years here. Over the course of those thousands of years, I think you'd go back to a stage you'd almost reverse back to a stage, we'll say 200,000 years ago, when there weren't any human beings, or certainly we weren't very dominant around the world, where wild animals of these specific areas around the world where they have evolved would take over to fill the niches that have been taken out by human beings through agriculture and urbanization and that sort of thing. I don't think there would be any one species anywhere in the world capable of spreading out in anything like the same way that we did. Over the course of a couple of millennia, or many millennia, hundreds of thousands of years, yes, I'm sure another species would emerge that would then do almost precisely the same thing, but not immediately. So it's very difficult to imagine something like I don't know, what's the most common species we have at the moment, other than a human being as a mammal? A what? Cattle. Yeah, cattle, that's a good one. So would cattle take over the world? No, they almost certainly wouldn't, because they're only kept alive because of us, basically. They would fall in line with a general predator-prey relationship that would go on in the wild. I think you'd find things like mountain lions and wolves and bears in in America and of course Northern Europe. Their numbers would explode, as would their prey numbers over the course of 1,000 years or so. But no one species, no bear could come down here and live and dominate, because the environmental conditions are just not acceptable for any species that cannot build homes or create clothes or, you know, convert the environment to their own needs like we can. What a lovely question. Thank you, Justin. Right, Brent has got some updates for you. I'm not sure what they are, but I think they have to do with the windy cheetah plains.
You can see it's got colder. So I'm trying to stay bundled up. I put my warm mittens on, and I've dispelled with the lightweight gloves, decided it's time for the serious winter gear. So we've left Cheetah Plains, and unfortunately it was quite windswept. But apart from that, very few animals, and it seems there's very few animals out the side as well at the moment. But that's not unusual in this windy weather, and a lot of the general game, when we refer to general game, we're talking about sort of impala, zebra, wildebeest, giraffe, etc., are not fans, so they do make themselves a little bit scarce. Now, the only update I do have is from Herbert, who's out on foot, and he's on some male leopard tracks, and he's asked me to check a cheetah cut line to make sure they don't head off to the east. I think James is going back to where Herbert is to go have a look around there. And you were having a very interesting conversation with James about who would become the dominant species if humans were extinct. Now, when I heard that, I had a little ponder about it. It is quite an interesting one. I don't think anyone's going to have the same answer. So I thought I'd weigh in with my 2 cents. Now, normally with animals, you have different dominant species in different areas. And we have sort of altered that fact, and the fact is that we can change our environment. So even if it's icy cold and snow everywhere, we can be warm enough, we can store food, we can do stuff that enables us to inhabit places that would be without those sort of developments we wouldn't be able to inhabit. I mean, take the Arctic Circle for an example. I mean, anyway, people who live there are mad in their own right, but that's their problem. Now, it's a funny one. I don't know. Or maybe you would find that sort of different species would dominate different areas. But very, 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 very interesting to just ponder. And we are by no means a successful species. If you take survival as success, we've only been around in our current form for about 200,000 years, which is literally a blink of an eyelid in evolutionary terms. And there's only one truly successful species if you deem survival to be success, and that's Spirogyra, blue-green algae, 4.2 billion years unchanged and still going strong. Now, from a mammalian point of view, I think I might be incorrect, but my memory serves me right. The most successful species out here in the African bush in terms of survival is the impala. It's been there for 1.6 million years unchanged. So just listening to the Game Drive radio. Interestingly, Carla and Heidi both think rats will become the dominant species. Oh, I don't think so. I don't see that. They've got too many predators, and without humans, I think their numbers would actually drop. The Norwegian grey, or the most dominant rat species that is now spread throughout the world, has been spread by people and is able to propagate and succeed so much because of people. Their success is quite closely linked to the human beings. Firstly, we transported them all around the world. The Vikings started it on their ships. And you find mass rat populations and very healthy rat populations around large human habitation. I think rats might not be the one. I think it'd be fascinating. Maybe you jump forward. Will it be one of the other primates? Would chimpanzees suddenly evolve faster because they wouldn't have to compete with us? If we just vanished, I mean, we'd leave lots of crops and food and such around that would grow, not as successfully without us, but it would still grow. I just want to double check here. And it's just some very old lion tracks. Whoops. Sorry about that. Didn't see that bush there. Now, if we look at ancient civilizations that have gone extinct and try to figure out what's sort of taken over that dominant niche between the different human inhabitations, I think probably, as long as we've been around in our current form, even though civilizations as such have disappeared. Oh, Joe, I think I swallowed a leaf there. It blew right down into my throat. Okay, I'm back. We'll continue this conversation in a little bit. I think I need to ponder a bit more. I think this cold, windy weather is a time for deep reflection and inner looking. And while we do that, James has got the fluffiest of fluffy creatures that I think are going to be extra fluffy in this windy weather.
We had the fluffiest of creatures, but because Brent Leo Smith's mouth is starting to wag slightly in an effort to keep him warm, they've all run away in the interim. Anyway, there are some waterbuck, and they do look very comfortably fluffy, I must say. So I think, although it's very cold, they will enjoy their fur. And I've often thought to myself, why are they so fluffy? Because, of course, this is not a very cold area by default. It's normally a pretty warm area, isn't it, Chandra? And Those hairs of theirs, while they might look fluffy, I don't think are particularly warm. They're quite sparse. And so I don't think that those waterbuck are necessarily as sort of toasty warm as they might look. They certainly won't be going and leaping into the water at any stage today. Now, Kevin, you're in North Carolina and you're wondering about hybrids and whether the antelope out here have ever crossbred and created a hybrid. Well, Kevin, for that to happen, you've got to be fairly closely related, certainly within the same genus. So kudu and kudu and nyala and bushbuck are in the same genus, and so the chances of them hybridizing, I suppose, must exist, except that they probably have different numbers of chromosomes, and therefore they're probably unable to hybridize. So the long and short answer is no, it hasn't happened. I don't think it's possible. Animals in the same genus that are able to hybridize would include, of course, zebra and horses. They can, in some cases, horses and donkeys, we know, make mules. And some of the cats are able to hybridize. Tigers and lions being the most obvious example. I don't know that it's possible amongst antelope species, though. I think that you might find that they're just slightly too distantly related for it to happen. But certainly be absolutely impossible for an impala, say, and a waterbuck to hybridize, because they're completely different species. They're from completely different families, and so the genetics behind hybridization would be completely impossible and implausible. Nice question, that. People are often fascinated by hybridization, and I think it's because we're fascinated by seeing new animals and new things. Chandra, are you enjoying the boat today? Yes? Nice movement around the place. He's nodding a bit. I think he's lost the power of speech, mercifully, just because his foot has infected his rest of his brain. And Jerry, you're in Ohio and you're wondering about what animals will do when they run out of and. Sorry, just give me that name again, Kirsty. Oh, Sherry. Sorry, Sherry. Yes, Sherry in Ohio. That's also a difficult one to answer, because in the Kruger National Park, well, let's take the Kruger. The Kruger is part of a greater conservation area called the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. That's 8 million acres of land. And is it ever going to be a case that the herbivores here run out of land and therefore look to move somewhere else? Yes, it's possible, it might happen, but there's nowhere for them to go. In South Africa, they cannot go west, they cannot move into the human settlements because there are too many people out on the western fringes. To the east is Mozambique. I suppose there are areas there that they might try and move into, but the optimum habitat for any wild herbivore in this area is right where they are now. And so were the grazing lands to become denuded over here, I think you'd find that there'd be a massive die-off before animals would actually be able to move. Certainly in prehistory, though, we know that there were very large migrations of animals that used to move up into the mountains for the winter time. Certainly many of the elephants, and I suspect the wildebeest and sable and roan, they would have moved towards the foothills of the Drakensberg onto the sources of the rivers that run through the Lowveld for much of the winter. That is a beastly cold wind. I'm going down towards the drainage line where it's sheltered. So, yeah, I really don't think that they would be able to go anywhere. Migrations also used to have north and south around this area, and apparently huge herds of wildebeest used to go up to the perennial rivers for the winter time, so they'd come out down into this area for winter, and then they'd go up north to places like the Timbavati, where there's a dry riverbed there now. It never flows anymore, but certainly used to flow, and they'd go up there for the summertime. Now that doesn't happen with the provision of artificial water. I mean, the greatest help we can give to animals, yes, is to make them space and to give them habitat to live in. and to stop denuding the habitats that they do live in. Unfortunately, I'm just not sure that we as human beings are capable of thinking that far in front of our noses. We're also very unaware in many respects. So we had that question about whether or not Africans or African wildlands, whatever, would be covered eventually in houses. And it's an interesting one because, and I'm not saying that Key John was hinting at this, but you know, I've been banging on recently as my kind of bugbear at the moment. You know, that people complain about how, you know, you see a rural person chop a tree down to make, you know, to cook a meal, and we say, well, that's a bad use of energy, without an awareness of what we are using when we boil a kettle, for example. But the same goes on a much larger scale when you look at deforestation and the poaching of big animals like gorillas and chimpanzees. And we tend to think of that as being an African problem. Or for example, the cattle ranching that's denuding the Amazon, those huge trees that are disappearing. But it isn't. It's not local rural people who are doing that stuff. It's enormous business conglomerates who are doing it. It's huge French logging companies in West Africa. It's enormous American companies, I think, largely in South America. And they're the ones taking out the trees and creating the problem with the poaching. And so while it is maybe on the ground, the locals who are involved, it's a worldwide problem. So I just think that we're perhaps not always cognizant enough of the fact that we, and by we I mean sort of westernized human beings, if you like, who have had the comforts of the first world, I don't think we often see how inextricably linked we are to global environmental problems as opposed to just local ones. I think we might be dragging a fairly substantial tree now, Andre. But let's get down into the thick bush here where we might hide from the wind. I am probably going to have to stop and look. Oh, we might find a snack here, Andre. Are you hungry? No, I think this tree was unfortunately debarked some time back. Let me just see if I can find Andre and I a little snack. Now, of course, the snack we want, just need my little knife. Where's my knife, Andre? There it is. The snack we want is a piece of the recently sort of chipped off bark, which tastes like a sort of mineral-rich chewing gum, if you like. Oh, here we go. That was part of our car. But I think this tree may well have been cut off by, or debarked by elephants too long ago. No, there's some moisture here. We might be able to get you a snack, Chandra. Look excited. There we go. He's grinning now, gormlessly. No, I can't get any off. It may have something to do with the incredible bluntness of my knife. No, it's too old, I'm afraid. It does taste very nice. This is not the best one. The best one is the red thorn. This is a knob thorn. But red thorn chewing gum is quite sweet and minerally. Is minerally a word, Chandra? Not. You wouldn't know. Okay, on we go. And that's, of course, exactly why the elephants will start to debark those trees, and the knob thorns in a drought year like... Fuck. What an absolute fool.
I was following leopard tracks and then I heard you coming. I couldn't resist.
I'm so unimpressed. Because I nearly ran him over. I tried to push the brake and I missed it, and I got the clutch instead.
Oh, well, this is quite quiet this morning. I'm going to see where these leopard go.
Leo Smith, go away. Horrible human being. I may also have let fly a local a local expletive, and I do apologise profusely because I didn't know what was coming rushing out of the bushes at us. I must apologise if anybody heard that one. I'm not accepting responsibility for it. That's Brent Leo Smith's fault. He thinks he loves to do that. He used to do it on game drive to his guests. His guests would be sitting very peacefully, sort of enjoying the quietness of the night air, and he'd get bored. And then he'd turn around and go, "Blah!" at them in the darkness. And, you know, these people from overseas, they don't know what's going on. There he is again. And they'd absolutely leap out of this.
Did you hear that? I heard them coming down the road, so I hid behind a bush and went, blah, blah, blah. He went, fuck.
Right, he's back with us. Anyway. Do you think that was funny, John? John thinks I got my comeuppance. I suppose that's fair enough. He really did get me very well there. I was utterly terrified. I didn't know what was coming. I thought for first it was a baboon. It was a massive baboon. And then it kept coming. And then it had a very colourful scarf on, so I knew what it was eventually. What a moron. I shall have to think up some form of revenge. Sometimes when somebody gets you like that, you can but just accept it and take it on the chin, because I was thoroughly had there. I nearly ran him over. I nearly ran him over by mistake. Well, you know, at least the two of us have been utterly competent at finding any animals today. At least we've managed to provide some form of entertainment. Hoppy Pussfoot is very pleased. I've been abusing him all morning, and now I've got my comeuppance.
Whoops. So, the little imp on my shoulder made me do it. He was talking so much. I actually had to hide behind that bush for his whole segment on the tree. And I thought he was going to drive past and I was going to jump up. Well, at least we had a bit of fun this morning. So Herbert's been following these tracks. I've found them quite a bit further from where he is. So I'm actually heading to pick up Herbert and give him a lift to the last set of tracks. So it'll cut some of his tracking time down. Hopefully he's able to find this male leopard. Why I was wandering around in the bush there is because I was trying to figure out what direction those tracks went before I made the big call of calling Herbert and moving him from the tracks he's on. I'm pretty certain it's the same set of tracks, and now they've just moved. Unfortunately, there are elephant tracks on top. So from earlier this morning, I think the elephants came through, judging from the tracks and the wind, quite recently. So I think James might even find them as he heads down that way. That's where the tracks were going. And they've obliterated the leopard tracks, from earlier. It was quite funny, wasn't it? I actually couldn't stop laughing for a while. James's his unimpressed face was very unimpressed. Jandre thought it was funny though. Carol thinks it's hilarious. Oh, we'll come back to these animals in a second because Herbert's just up the road, so if he keeps walking towards us, he's going to give them a fright. There's a lovely little Inyala female little baby inside the thicket here. And here we go, some impala as well. And they're all moving away from us in this weather. There's the little Inyala. Oh, off he goes. Oh, off they went. Trying to safety in numbers in the wind. So we should find Herbert around here somewhere. I hope they're not old tracks. No, I'm quite confident that they are from last night. The other set of tracks we followed yesterday didn't go that way, and we did check that road. So let's see, Herbie should be up ahead here shortly. There he is. Looks like he's got a good stick. Always important to have a good stick when walking through the bush. Here we go for. It's going that way.
I'm not sure. We can go double check there, but for me that's very fresh.
This one I'm not sure. It's been blunt. Let's go double check.
There, then
Yeah, perfect.
Good.
So Herb's going to jump on with us and he's put his stick next to us, and he wants me to go double check. So he says there's a lot of hippo. So other side, info. Yeah. So there's a hippo sleeping there. That's why he couldn't walk into where those tracks went. Now, a hippo out of the water in this drought is an incredibly dangerous animal. Viam and I actually nearly stumbled onto one. We only saw it at about 5 meters when we were tracking lions the other morning. So, of course, we want to stay as safe as possible, especially with this gusting wind we've got. So we're going to go see if we can have a look where those leopard tracks are. And so I think they are more fresh than the ones I had back down the road, because the elephant tracks were all over them. We often refer to cubs, and Christopher in Arizona is wondering, why are the big cat babies called cubs and not kittens? Very good question, Christopher. As far as I know, it's to do with size. So if a serval, caracal, wildcat have babies, they're referred to as kittens, but anything bigger, cheetah, jaguar, tiger, lion, leopard, are referred to as cubs. Bears also cubs, hyenas cubs. So I'm not sure. Maybe it's a size thing. Okay, so I'm just going to slow down a little bit. We're going to start checking a little bit more carefully. Unless a leopard's got a kill, it's going to be very, very unlikely that they're in a tree. They're going to be on the ground, maybe on a termite mound. They're more than likely going to be lying on the ground. Cold morning, maybe in the sun. Now, are you staring at us, or are you staring at something else? I think they're just staring at us. There's a whole herd of impala on the road there. Just want to listen. and ask Herbie. Do you want to go down the...
Yeah.
Okay. Which road he wants to take to check the tracks. Now, while we're looking for leopards, Melissa's asked me which is my favorite leopard and why, and what was it like seeing it for the first time. It's a very, very difficult question because we do like lots of different leopards. But for me, since I've been at Safari Live, my favorite leopard overall has been one of Karula's young boys. Excuse me, impalas. And his name is Kunyuma. So he's of her last successful litter. And he's now moved down towards the Sand River, sadly. But he had a very interesting character as leopards go. He did some crazy things. He's also the first leopard I ever tracked and found on foot here on Djuma. But my favorite sighting, I mean, I've watched him walk up to a buffalo bull that was sleeping in a pan and for no reason whack the buffalo on the bum and then jump up a tree and snarl and hiss at the buffalo. I've seen him fight with hyenas even when he was quite young, and then also just randomly climbing big dead leadwood trees to see if he could, and then getting right up to the top and nearly falling down. I think he's my favorite of the leopards I've seen here. At the moment, of the females, I think Nkanyini is high up on my list. She's just very, very pretty, very beautiful. First time I saw her actually wasn't while I was on Safari Live. I had friends of mine who were staying at Djuma, and I was guiding them, and we saw her down on Cheetah Plains. What have you spotted? An owl. Herbert spotted an owl. Backwards. Okay. Okay, where are we looking? In the Jackalberry. Sorry, are we just trying to figure out where the owl is? No problem. Okay. Oh, I got him. Okay, I got him. Okay, so let me just go forward a little bit. Okay, you got him. Okay, so up to the left. A little bit more to the. There we go. A little bit to the left, and zoom center of screen. A little bit to the left. There we go. A Verreaux's eagle owl, or used to be called a giant eagle owl. What a spot, Herbert! You can see his pink eyelids with his eyes closed as he's snoozing. And you can see how strong the wind is at the moment. He's got himself a nice big jackalberry. Oh, the wind is really, really strong today. Yeah, a Verreaux's eagle owl. One of my favorite calls in the bush is of this owl. Deep, ooh, 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 ooh. Often hear it just before sunrise. Very distinct pink eyelids that the Verreaux's have. You also see those very large tufts of feathers that help enhance their hearing. Now, it wouldn't have been the best night for the owl last night. The windy weather wouldn't have made for great hunting because a lot of the small rodents and things that they feed off would have been keeping a low profile. See, just the tiny slit of the eyes open. Now, this is the biggest owl species we get in this area. Beautiful. I think he's going to nap here for the rest of the day. Great spot. So we're just going to head back to where Herbie had those leopard tracks last and have another quick look around that area. Oh, sorry about that. My ears came out. But while we go look for this leopard, James has got some big animals to show you.
Well, we do, and we're not really breathing, everybody, and it's because we seem to be in a fairly dodgy signal area. But there is a wonderful picture of a herd of elephants feeding and just messing about generally in this sort of base of the Mulwati drainage line. And the youngsters are having a bit of a snooze. They're all lying down and scrabbling about in the dirt, playing like they are on a giant sort of naturally formed sand pit. We've watched 3 or 4 of them sort of burying their faces in the sand, obviously enjoying the feeling of I guess it scratches their heads, scratches their skin, and probably just feels very nice in the same way that it does to us if you lie down on the beach. There's a very little one in there having a good time. Hello, Jester. Nice question from you about an elephant's tail and why on earth it needs one. Well, Jester, you're right, absolutely right. It's got nothing to do with balance. The end of an elephant's tail, of course, has got a fairly substantial array of thick hairs. And in some cases, they can be up to a foot long. And those hairs are very important for helping them to flick flies off and flick off other ectoparasites that there might be. I don't think that the tail is necessarily the most important adaptation that an elephant has. So were they not to have the tail, I don't think it would necessarily affect them too adversely. I think they'd survive just fine without a tail, and many elephants do. But it just does help them get rid of flies and irritations.
Exciting news! This leopard we've been tracking has been found, and it's a male, as I said, so I'm trying to get there as fast as possible. It's a bit bumpy on this little section of road, but also it's going to be a big surprise to which leopard this is. So why don't you guess which leopard it is? If you think you know which male leopard I'm racing towards, send me the name of him on Twitter to the hashtag Safari Live. Which leopard are we chasing after today? I'm just going to stop very briefly here. Here we go. And Herbie's going to go walk and check around here. And we're going to, don't forget your stick. There we go. Let's continue on towards that male leopard. Bouncing! Yay! That's going to blow off. Put the racing hat on. Tax, I'm on Central. Confirm best access is from Central Nyala Road North Junction. Sorry, I'm just listening. I copy, that's Nyala Road North Junction with Guaripan. Copy, thanks. I'm about 5 minutes out. So, very exciting. I'm just warning, we might get some breakup as we get there. He is in a notoriously bad gremlin drainage line, but I think if we're static, it should be okay. But we're not too far off now. So lots of guesses coming through, keep them through. I did hear a few correct ones, but I think we're only going to unveil when we unveil the leopard, and then let you have a look at his face to see if you can work out who he is. Sarah says I make high-pitched dolphin noises for leopard. I've been described... Oh, you are making high-pitched dolphin noises for leopard. Sorry, that was my fault not listening properly. But yes, I'm also very excited. I think the best excited noise you can make out of any animal is the banded mongoose when it finds an egg. It goes... So I think that's a good excited noise for leopard. While we try to get through there, through the bad signal area, let's go see what Commander Bond's up to.
There's the bottom of an elephant, everyone, and just quickly you can see the long hairs there on the tail. And those are the hairs, of course, that are used for the swatting of various things. There we go. And I'm a little reticent to even try and move here, just in case. The same herd that we were looking at just now, and in fact we can see one off to the left there, Jean-André, just feeding through the bushes. It's not a world-beating picture. You see how reticent he was to even point the camera, something that wasn't going to win him an award. There we go, just shut up, do your job. Jean-André has had very, very much sufficient sympathy over the course of the last 2 weeks. How many months have you been injured now? Well, it feels like 4 months. I'm just going to try and ease my way down. There we go, Jean-André. There you are. Take an award winner. Don't blame your driver. Angie, a question from you about, you've heard that in some areas they're painting elephants' tusks pink in order to prevent poaching. And would we ever consider doing that here? Angie, I actually haven't heard of that. I've heard certainly of poisoning rhino horn, but I guess painting elephant tusks pink would be a good idea if you could get the paint in deep enough for it to taint the whole tusk, because of course elephants' tusks are not used for medicinal purposes, but they are used for sort of jewelry and carvings and that sort of thing. I haven't heard of it happening. It certainly wouldn't be viable in the Kruger National Park. Remember, we're in an open system, like I said, of 8 million acres. And that means that there are over 15,000, probably up to 17,500 elephants in this area now. To paint the tusks of every single one of those 17,500 elephants would cost far, far more than the combined anti-poaching efforts of the whole Kruger Park and probably our army as well. It's not viable here. On a small reserve, when you have a little herd of elephants, that you are looking after, then it perhaps is viable. But it is certainly not viable to dart. I mean, you'd have to anesthetize every single elephant in the Kruger Park and paint their tusks pink. And apart from the fact that it would be quite amusing to watch all of the elephants with their pink tusks, well, it would be quite sad, I guess. It just would not be practical at all, Angie. And you can see these elephants are sticking to the drainage line, of course, because it is so windy, and so for them it's just much more comfortable to be in this area in the same way that we are. Eating very peacefully, and I'm sure you can hear the rushing. Now, you are in for a very special treat, a surprise male leopard with Brent Leo Smith.
Look at this. He's got a bit of a limp. He's walking right towards us at the moment. So can you guess which male leopard this is? And a bit difficult from those little spots you've got there. There we go. A little bit of a limp. Not looking too bad though. It's right next to us. He's going right behind the car. Isn't that stunning? There we go. Taxon's guests agree. He is absolutely stunning. I'll try and move now. So we can also, we've been blocking the taxi. And now, I'm going to try find a way. There he is. You can see him now. So, very distinct ears when we look at them. I'm going to show you now. Oh, he's disappearing again. But let's see who's got it right, which male leopard this is. Keeping it nice and cryptic through the bushes, but we did have a really nice close-up look at him as he walked right next to us. Now let's try and move. No, we can't go backwards. There's a big tree there, so forwards it must be. So who's got it right? Who knows who it is? Well done, Raisa, Nancy, and Lynn. It is Mvula, the old dominant male leopard from this area. He's now a dispersal male, so he pops up all over the place. So he's lost his territory, and he just sort of floats about trying to avoid the other dominant males. So for a dispersal male, he's actually looking in very good condition. He's got a little limp, but I mean, not looking bad at all. He is quite hungry. Slightly stiffness. I'm trying to work out which leg is causing the limp. I think it could be one of the back ones. Okay, we're just going to wait. We can't move just yet. I'm sandwiched between two cars. But yay, so exciting. I haven't seen Mvula in such a long time. So very exciting to catch up with him. Thanks, Taxi. Yeah. So I'm just going to wait. There we go. Now we can move. What I'm going to try to do is find a spot where we can jump up ahead in the bush. And he's now moving down the road. Have a quick look. This is a particularly thick area, so it does make life a little bit difficult. Oh, if he goes in there. Oh, there's waterbuck. So if we come across to the right, come other side of the vehicle, there. Zoom in there. Where's that? Oh, I can't see if it's a big male. It's a big male, but there could be females around. It doesn't look like it's spotted the leopard yet. Okay. Now that would be quite a big kill for a leopard. I'm just going to wait here. Just see what's going on. Okay, let's just go forward a little bit. So this is ideal hunting weather for him. He's just snipping around. The strong wind will help diffuse the... Back a little bit. Wait. Forward's going to be there. Just going to try get around to the other side. And let's just wait here. And we can just see him through the bush there. He's not really looking too interested in hunting that waterbuck. You see his tail's up. I think he was just maybe checking to see if there was a baby or female around. Let's have a look. Can you see him there? I've lost sight of him. I'm just going to go up ahead where it's a little bit more open. So what we're doing is we're trying to get up ahead of him. There he is. So he is heading in some really difficult country, and there's some big little... Oh, isn't that beautiful? I love leopards at this time of the year with the colors of the bush willows changing. And you can see how well their camouflage works. So it's the first time I've seen a mvula in a very long time. Look at that. Has he spotted something I can't see? I think he's just moving quite carefully, and it's really good hunting weather for a leopard. So he's moving carefully and taking his time. There he goes. See, he is alert. He's looking a little bit more alert than he was a few minutes ago. Hold on, we're going to bounce over the log. So Tammy's saying this is the first time she's seen mvula, and she's been watching for 10 months. So I saw him a couple of months ago, maybe a month and a half ago. But he used to be the dominant male leopard we used to see regularly when I first started. But Tingana has dispersed him, so moved him out of this area. He's heading towards one of those steep little river systems. No, it's just jumping up, it's fine. Oh, where is that thing? Let's just change the angle a little bit. There we go. You can see how difficult the country he's moving through is at the moment. There he is. And he's moving along the edge of this little river system. Look, they just see those rosettes through the thicket. There we go. So he's gone up onto a termite mound there. I'm going to try see if we can sneak around. Ooh, this is really not great country to be following a leopard, but isn't this exciting? Okay. Hold on tight. I've lost sight of him, so while I try and find him again, let's go see what Commander Bond's up to.
I am obviously insane with jealousy at this stage because that leopard is my favorite male leopard, and I'm so very pleased that he's back here. I'm not so pleased that he seems to have a limp. But I was chatting to Tristan from Simbambili last night, who spent some time with him 2 nights ago. He says he's looking very healthy, that the muscles around his hips are still pretty good, and that he was calling. So I don't know, maybe we just misinterpreted his behavior, and maybe he is making a bit of a comeback. But he is certainly in the middle of Tingana's territory, and if I'm correct as to saying, I'm not exactly sure where he is today, but I think he's around Buffelshoek Dam. Now, that is his old stomping ground, and maybe he will re-establish himself there. Certainly Tingana hasn't been spending a great deal of time in the northern reaches around that area, so maybe he'll stay for a while. Wouldn't that be lovely? He's a magnificent fellow, is our friend Mvula. 13 years of him. I wonder when his 14th birthday is. But very good to have him back, and I'm especially jealous of Brent because he did make me look like a total ass while I was live, which Jean-Andre thinks is very funny, of course. I'm smiling graciously. Can you see me smiling graciously, Brian? Yes. Let's go back to Mvula.
There he is. We've caught up with him again, but it is a really, really thick block. We will try to stay with him. Look at it. He's definitely hungry and on the hunt. Well, hopefully he'll catch something. So he's stopping, listening, smelling. Oh, he's changed his mind. He's coming towards us. What a good leopard. I hope you're getting some lovely screenshots of him. He has very distinct tattered ears. Look at him now. He's coming right next to us. Look at this, he's right next to us. those shoulder blades. I think he spotted something and he's on the hunt. Oh, I think he can actually smell something, just judging from his behavior. Just have to let the guys know where we are. Abel, I'm just on the eastern side of that drainage line that runs with the Nyala Road North. He's still mobile west at the moment. I'll keep you updated. But I think maybe Central will be the best. So we're gonna. Ooh. We're in one of these precarious spots again. See if I can get out like this. Watch out behind you there, Gerard. Okay, we should be okay. Through there, watch the thorns. And yeah, he is choosing a particularly trying area for us. We'll try and get another visual. There he is. Oh, isn't that stunning? Isn't that beautiful in that light? This is ideal hunting weather for them. Obviously, nighttime would be better. But moving along the edge of a little river system like this, there's a good chance of a nyala, kudu, even the odd impala. You can see he's smelt something or heard something. He's suddenly changed. He's suddenly got a little bit more serious. What have you spotted in the wind, Mr. Mvula? Or smelt? Now, this is very typical male or leopard behavior. He spotted something. He's stopping, sitting and watching. Sorry, I just got to be on the game drive. Hey, firm. So, see how he's listening, watching very carefully. I think he's smelt something, and that's what he's up to. Look at that, look how he dropped his head. What have you spotted or smelt or heard? Now let's watch. Wow, what an exciting way to end the sunrise safari. A little bit of leopard love at the end. And great to see Mvula, who we haven't seen in a long time. So from all of us here at Safari Live, it's been wonderful and windy on this sunrise safari. But let's keep an eye on that leopard for the last few seconds of drive, and we'll see you in a few short hours. I'm definitely going to be looking for this guy again. From those little spots you've got there we go.